a dramatic increase in deaths caused by acts defined as terrorism and internal conflicts has driven the world to one of its most unstable states since World War II, an annual report on peace has said. The Institute for Economics and Peace, a non-profit independent think tank, said on Wednesday that events such as the Syrian civil war and internal conflicts in Africa have made a 12-month period to March 2014 the seventh consecutive year to show a deterioration in world peace. Those 7 years defy a trend of increasing stability stretching back to the end of World War II, it says. How index is calculated. The GPI studies 22 categories, or pillars of peace, which can be summarized in under 3 sections. Ongoing conflict, including external and internal conflicts fought, deaths from organized conflict. Safety and security, including number of homicides per 100,000 people, number of security and police officers per 100,000 people. Militarization, including nuclear and heavy weapons capabilities of access to light weapons, imports of conventional weapons per 100,000 people. Iceland, the most peaceful country, scored 1.19 on the index, while Syria, the least peaceful, got 3.65. The Institute's Global Peace Index of 2014 states that a steep rise in attacks defined as terrorism, an increase in the number of civil wars and the number of refugees were key contributors to the continued deterioration. Syria for the first time anchored the table of 162 nations, replacing Afghanistan as the worst in the world. Major deteriorations were recorded in South Sudan, the Central African Republic, CAR, Egypt and Ukraine. The Institute uses this definition of terrorism: violent action by a non-state actor with a social, political or religious goal. Terrorism is where we have seen the most dramatic change. Prior to September 11, there were only 38 countries that had deaths from terrorism. Today that is 58, said Daniel Heislop, the Vice President of Research at the Institute. If you look at the number of deaths, prior to September 11 we had about 2,500 deaths from terrorism a year. In 2013, there were 17,000. Heislop said that wars in Africa, including in CAR, South Sudan and Mali, were contributing to the deterioration. The conflicts have been quite specific to those nations. They are a consequence of a lack of governance and a lack of the pillars of peace, such as social inclusion, transparency and distribution of resources. Those are the underlying drivers, he said. The recent violence in Iraq and Ukraine were not included in the calculations for 2014, conflicts that Heislop said made it hard to imagine any short-term improvement in the global outlook. But there's a positive side, he said. There are fewer interstate conflicts and we have certainly seen that trend over the last 7 years. If you look at a lot of the post-conflict states of the last 20 years, it is a pretty positive story. Liberia has improved dramatically. Countries can bounce back. It is not all doom and gloom. The Institute for Economics and Peace is an independent non-profit organization which has offices in Sydney, Oxford and New York. It studies the social and economic factors that contribute to a peaceful society. The Global Peace Index has been produced since 2007 and is created in conjunction with the Economist Intelligence Unit, part of the Economic Magazine Group. Follow Graham Baker on Twitter. 587.